4 billion years ago, our planet was nothing like the blue world we know today. Imagine violent volcanoes, fiery meteors, and oceans bubbling with strange chemistry. No trees, no animals, no humans, just endless water, rock, and storms. And yet, in this alien world, something extraordinary happened. Out of chaos, life sparked. Tiny microbes so small they were invisible changed the destiny of Earth forever. Welcome back to Ancient Echoes History. In today's journey, we'll uncover the mystery of life's origin, the microbes that ruled the early oceans, and how these invisible pioneers built the foundation for everything we see today, including us. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is not just science, it's the ultimate survival story of our planet. Let's rewind to Earth's early days. About 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was born in fire. Colliding asteroids, molten rock, and toxic gases filled the skies. The young planet was dangerous, unstable, and unpredictable. Scientists call this time the Hadean Aeon, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Why? Because Earth truly was a hellish place, but around 4 billion years ago things began to shift. The planet cooled just enough for liquid water to appear. Vast oceans stretched across the surface, hot, murky, and filled with minerals. And here's the million-dollar question. In these early oceans, did the chemistry of life begin? Many scientists believe so. Some theories point to hydrothermal vents deep under the sea. Imagine towering chimneys on the ocean floor, pumping hot mineral-rich water. These vents could have been Earth's first laboratories where simple molecules combined into something more complex. Others suggest life began in shallow pools on the surface, where sunlight and storms sparked new reactions. Wherever it started, these oceans were the cradle of creation. Now let's picture the first life. It wasn't a plant. It wasn't an animal. It was a microbe. Think of the tiniest speck floating in the water, just a cell wrapped in a fragile membrane. This was no accident. Over millions of years, chemistry turned into biology. These early microbes, called prokaryotes, were incredibly simple compared to us. No nucleus, no organs, just raw survival machines. But here's the secret. What they lacked in complexity, they made up for in innovation. These microbes learned how to use the ocean's chemistry for energy. Some fed on iron and sulfur. Others experimented with sunlight, leading to a process that would change the planet forever. Photosynthesis. Imagine tiny microbes learning to capture sunlight and turn it into energy. They weren't just surviving. They were inventing the future. Here's where the story gets epic. About 2.5 billion years ago, some microbes called cyanobacteria perfected photosynthesis, and their waste product? Oxygen. At first, oxygen was poison to most life forms. It reacted with iron in the oceans, creating rusty red rocks that we still find today. But as these microbes kept producing oxygen, it began to accumulate in the air. This event is known as the Great Oxidation Event. It was one of the most dramatic turning points in Earth's history. Think about it. The breath you're taking right now traces back to those microbes. They turned Earth from a toxic, suffocating planet into a world where animals and eventually humans could exist. Without cyanobacteria, we wouldn't be here. They are the true unsung heroes of history. Now here's a mind-blowing fact. Microbes didn't just live in the early oceans, they ruled them. For billions of years, the entire planet was a microbial world. Imagine an ocean filled with mats of bacteria, slimy colonies spreading across rocks and seafloors. These are called stromatolites, and we can still find their fossilized remains in places like Western Australia. To put it simply, if you could time travel 3 billion years back, you wouldn't see fish or whales. You'd see endless oceans bubbling with microbial life. They were the architects of ecosystems, recycling nutrients, controlling chemistry, and shaping the atmosphere. They were also masters of survival, adapting to heat, cold, salt, and even radiation. And the truth is, they never disappeared. Microbes still make up most of Earth's biodiversity today. In fact, you carry trillions of them inside your own body right now. But how did we get from single microbes to complex creatures like fish, dinosaurs, and humans? The answer lies in one of the most important partnerships in history. About 2 billion years ago, one microbe swallowed another, but instead of digesting it, they formed an alliance. That swallowed microbe became the mitochondrion, the powerhouse of the cell. This moment gave rise to complex cells, known as eukaryotes. Think of it as the invention of teamwork. With more energy, cells could grow larger, specialize, and eventually form multicellular organisms. From this point, evolution accelerated. Life exploded in diversity, filling the oceans with strange and wonderful forms. But we must remember the foundation was laid by the microbial pioneers. So why should we care about microbes and early oceans today? Because they are the original survivors. They endured asteroid impacts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. And they still thrive in the most extreme corners of Earth: boiling hot springs, frozen glaciers, and even radioactive waste. More importantly, they remind us of our connection to the ancient past. Every breath of oxygen, every drop of water, every living cell carries the fingerprints of those first microbes. And here's the kicker: studying them may even help us discover life beyond Earth. If microbes could arise in Earth's harsh early oceans, could they also exist on Mars, Europa, or distant exoplanet? Picture Earth nearly 4 billion years ago. The skies are choked with volcanic ash, lightning cracks across thick clouds, and the ground trembles under constant asteroid impacts. This is not the peaceful blue planet we know today. This was a world of fire, storms, and boiling seas. Yet in this chaos lay the seeds of something extraordinary, the first life. Scientists believe that the story of life's origin is written in the oceans. The early Earth had cooled just enough for liquid water to form, creating vast primordial oceans that covered much of the surface. These oceans weren't calm, they were hot, filled with dissolved minerals, and endlessly stirred by volcanic activity. Imagine dark green seas, steaming with gases, bubbling with chemical reactions. These waters weren't just oceans. They were giant laboratories where chemistry experimented with life. There are many theories about where exactly life began. Some point to hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor where superheated, mineral-rich water gushed out. These vents, still found today, form strange underwater chimneys where microbes thrive in complete darkness. The idea is simple: minerals provided the building blocks, and the vents provided the energy. This combination might have sparked the earliest living systems. Others imagine shallow pools on volcanic islands, warmed by the sun and fed by rainfall and tides. Here, lightning and ultraviolet radiation could have triggered complex reactions in what scientists call the primordial soup. The famous Miller-Urey experiment in the 1950s simulated these conditions, showing that simple molecules could transform into amino acids, the building blocks of life. No matter the exact setting, what happened next was revolutionary. Simple molecules combined into more complex ones. Fatty acids formed membranes. Nucleotides assembled into chains. Energy sources, perhaps from heat or lightning, fueled the creation of the first self-replicating systems. Slowly, chemistry began to cross the threshold into biology. It's astonishing to think that in these oceans, where most people would see nothing but waves, nature was busy writing the first chapters of life. The origin of life was not a single moment, but a series of steps, millions of tiny experiments carried out by Earth itself. And the ocean was the stage. These primordial waters are more than history. They are the roots of our existence. Every drop of water you drink today carries echoes of those ancient seas. The origin of life is the origin of us, and it all began in Earth's early oceans. Once chemistry crossed into biology, the first true living beings appeared. These were not animals or plants, not even anything you could see with the naked eye. They were microbes, tiny single-celled organisms, Microbes were Earth's original pioneers. They were simple but not weak. A microbe is essentially a small bubble of life, a microscopic cell that can feed, grow, and reproduce. Unlike modern plants and animals, these early microbes called prokaryotes had no nucleus, no complex structures. Yet they were the most important life forms in history. Imagine standing on a rocky shore of early Earth 3.5 billion years ago. You wouldn't see trees, fish, or insects. You would see only rock and ocean. But if you could zoom in with a powerful microscope, you'd discover that the waters were alive with tiny cells. They floated freely or clung together in thin, slimy layers on rocks. Evidence for these ancient microbes comes from fossils known as stromatolites. Stromatolites are layered structures formed when microbial mat strapped sediments. Some of the oldest stromatolite fossils are over 3.5 billion years old, making them the oldest visible evidence of life on Earth even today. Stromatolites still grow in a few rare places, like Shark Bay in Western Australia, offering a glimpse of ancient microbial worlds. What made microbes so extraordinary was their adaptability. They thrived in boiling hot springs, acidic lakes, deep sea vents, and frozen glaciers. Some survived on sulfur, others on iron, others on methane. These tiny pioneers could endure conditions that would kill any modern plant or animal. That's why scientists often call them extremophiles. Think about it, if microbes hadn't evolved survival strategies, life would have ended before it began. They were the test pilots of biology, experimenting with different ways to live on a harsh planet. Microbes were also teachers. They carried the genetic information that would later evolve into more complex life. They developed the biochemical pathways that all organisms still use today, breaking down sugars for energy, storing DNA, repairing damage, and building proteins. It is humbling to realize that the story of humanity doesn't begin with people, it begins with microbes. They are our distant ancestors, the tiny sparks that lit the torch of life billions of years ago. For over a billion years, microbes lived quietly in Earth's oceans, feeding on minerals and chemicals. But then came one of the most important inventions in history, photosynthesis. A group of microbes called cyanobacteria discovered how to capture sunlight and use it to create food. This was revolutionary. Instead of relying on chemical energy from the Earth, cyanobacteria tapped into the greatest energy source of all, the sun. Here's how it worked. Cyanobacteria used sunlight to split water molecules, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. At first, oxygen was toxic to most other microbes. It reacted with iron in the oceans, causing massive rusting that formed banded iron formations, layered rocks still found today. Over time, as more and more cyanobacteria filled the oceans, oxygen began to leak into the atmosphere. This led to what scientists call the Great Oxidation Event around 2.5 billion years ago. Oxygen levels soared, transforming Earth forever. The consequences were dramatic. Many anaerobic microbes that couldn't tolerate oxygen died off in what might be called Earth's first mass extinction. But for other life forms, oxygen was a gift. Oxygen allowed cells to produce energy far more efficiently than ever before. This opened the door to greater complexity and larger organisms. The oxygen also reacted with sunlight, forming a protective ozone layer in the atmosphere. This shield blocked deadly radiation, making Earth's surface safer for future life. It's no exaggeration to say that cyanobacteria created the modern world. Every breath you take, every flame that burns, every animal that runs depends on oxygen. And oxygen itself is a legacy of those tiny blue-green microbes in the ancient oceans. Without photosynthesis, there would be no fish, no forests, no people. Cyanobacteria turned Earth from a barren rock into a living, breathing planet. Here's something that surprises many people. For most of Earth's history, microbes were the only life forms on the planet. From the first cell around 3.8 billion years ago until about 600 million years ago, the world was purely microbial. That's over 3 billion years of microbial dominance. During this time, microbes built vast ecosystems. They formed microbial mats, dense colonies that spread across the seafloor, shallow lagoons, and tidal flats. These mats were like microbial cities, with different layers of microbes performing different jobs. Some captured sunlight, others processed waste, others recycled nutrients. One of their most impressive creations were the stromatolites, giant reef-like structures built by microbes over centuries. Imagine enormous mounds of living microbes stretching across shallow seas, covering coastlines in slimy green carpets. These were the rainforests of the Precambrian world, except instead of trees, they were made of bacteria. For billions of years, these microbial worlds thrived without competition. No predators, no plants, no animals. Just microbes, evolving slowly, experimenting with survival. They were the kings and queens of Earth. Even today, microbes remain the hidden rulers of the planet. More than half of Earth's biomass is microbial. They recycle carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. They live in soil, in oceans, in the atmosphere, and even inside your body. It's easy to forget that microbes are still the foundation of life. Without them, ecosystems would collapse. They were the first rulers of Earth, and in many ways they never gave up their crown. Microbes ruled Earth for billions of years, but eventually life took a great leap forward. This leap came from a partnership. About 2 billion years ago, one microbe swallowed another. Normally, this would have been the end of the smaller one. But instead of digesting it, they formed an alliance. The smaller microbe provided energy and the larger one provided protection. Over time, this relationship became permanent. The smaller microbe evolved into the mitochondrion, the powerhouse of the cell. This event, known as the endosymbiotic theory, gave rise to a new kind of cell, the eukaryote. Unlike prokaryotes, eukaryotes had internal structures, including a nucleus to store DNA. They were larger, more complex, and more versatile. This was a turning point in Earth's history. With more energy, eukaryotes could grow bigger and develop new abilities. Some evolved into multicellular organisms, where different cells specialized in different tasks. This gradual build-up eventually led to one of the most famous events in Earth's history, the Cambrian explosion, about 540 million years ago. Suddenly, the oceans were filled with strange new creatures, worms, trilobites, sponges, and eventually fish. But it all began with microbes forming partnerships billions of years earlier. Without endosymbiosis, there would be no complex life, no plants, no animals, no humans. The leap to complexity was not inevitable. It was a stroke of evolutionary luck, a biological marriage that changed everything. The story of microbes isn't just ancient history. It's ongoing. Microbes still dominate Earth today. They produce half of the oxygen in the atmosphere through photosynthesis, mostly from ocean plankton. They recycle nutrients, break down waste, and keep ecosystems alive. They live in every environment imaginable, from boiling hot springs to the ice of Antarctica. You yourself are a microbial world. Your body carries trillions of bacteria, forming what scientists call the microbiome. These microbes help digest food, protect against disease, and even influence mood and behavior. You are not just human, you are part microbe. Microbes also hold clues about life beyond Earth. If life could arise in Earth's extreme early oceans, why not on Mars, Europa, or Enceladus? NASA missions search for microbial fingerprints in space, guided by the knowledge that microbes are the most likely form of alien life. The legacy of microbes is also a lesson in survival. They endured asteroid impacts, ice ages, and global extinctions. They remind us that adaptability is the key to survival. Most importantly, microbes connect us to our deepest past. Every breath of oxygen, every cell in your body, every living creature on this planet carries the mark of microbial innovation. The story of microbes is the story of life itself, from the fiery birth of Earth to the bubbling seas of the Archean. From the first microbes to the great oxidation, from stromatolites to mitochondria, and from ancient oceans to your own body, microbes are the foundation of history. They are not just small, they are mighty. They are the architects of life, the unseen rulers of Earth, and the bridge between chemistry and biology. Without them, there would be no oceans, no forests, no civilizations, and it all began with microbes in the early oceans, our oldest ancestors, our greatest teachers, and our eternal companions.